It's recording, Dad.
Một hai ba yo.
Một hai ba yo.
Third episode.
Third episode.
Ba.Con.
Back on. Oh, number 3.
Number 3.
Number 3 of number 3, Dad.
Wow. All right.
So we're back here again, the talk show where a father and a son just speak about things that are going on in life.
That's right.
I just touched your foot on accident.
You did.
Sorry,
yeah, you
Dad.
did. Weird.
Sorry. Today's topic, we have
Discipline.
work ethic, and where it came from, fighting burnout, and coping with negative emotions and thoughts.
Big topic.
Big topic.
Let's get into it.
Yeah. So I was talking to my cousin Matthew today
Yeah.
about he was asking me how are your parents doing, and I was like, they're good. My dad is. I see him a few times out of the week, and he was like, "Oh shit, is he driving back and forth from Vic to Houston that often?" And I'm like, "Yeah, bro, he is. At least 3-4 times a week." And that begs the question, Dad. How do you do it? Because I know when I drive in the morning and during the day, it's exhausting.
It is.
And not only, and the driving purpose for me is just vacation. I'm not driving to clock into work.
Well, to give some emphasis to it, it's 110 miles one way. So I do about roughly 4-hour commute, 2 there and 2 back. So,
Right.
Discipline, it's a daily process.
I've heard it's something
yeah.
that you work on too.
Yes.
Discipline is not something that people are they're
No.
not born with it, right?
No, there's guys. I mean, and you see the athletes or the super mental guys that are all in, like David Grogan. I think he's the ex-SEAL that ran the ultra marathon.
Oh, right.
Yeah, he never even trained for it. He just did it, type of deal.
That's insane.
And how he could do it was just his discipline, his state of mind.
Right.
And I think that we all have it. We just have to cull it, meaning you got to kind of try to teach yourself how to delete the no's.
Right.
The
The mental battle.
it's hard though.
Right. And it seems like you win it every day you drive, Dad.
Well, you got to try to win something.
Yeah.
Because again, it goes back to life, right?
Mhm.
I would tell you, can we all do it? I'm sure, but
Mhm.
it is also something that you want to, in a sense, right? My discipline that I have, it isn't great by any stretch of the imagination. It's not the ultimate or extreme.
And see, I don't mean to interrupt you, Dad, but that is a crazy thing to hear from you. Because from what I've learned personally, just being your son, the discipline that you do have is something that I've strived to instill in myself and work on myself.
Well, yeah, and I get that, but I also have something to be disciplined for, meaning I have a family to support.
Right.
And goals that I want. So
Right.
it kind of works itself into it. Does it happen every day? No, it doesn't.
Yeah, but you still...
But I think a lot of discipline is habitual,
Yeah, that's true.
right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a
you
habit,
learn
yeah.
once you have that habit.
Mhm.
You got to understand from your perspective, you're looking at me drive. From my perspective, I've been doing it for years.
Mhm.
And so it becomes this weird ordeal. I know I just started recently doing it, but perfect example was when we had our own business in Austin and we still lived in Victoria. And
okay.
basically, I would do a full day's work, and then sometimes at night I would drive up to Austin, which is basically 2.5 hours away.
2.5 hours away. Yeah.
And then I would get up at 5 in the morning and drive back to work and be at
Yep.
work. And so, it's something that I worked for, is something that I felt like my family needed. So
Mhm.
I had to have that type of discipline to drive. Did I like it? No.
No.
But you kind of fool yourself into thinking it's a good drive. I
Yeah.
mean, I remember times when I was dead tired Saturday night working and then driving up to Austin,
Right.
spending Sunday with you guys, so
Right.
you and Mom wouldn't have to drive back because of our business.
Yep.
And it wasn't like we spent the day Sunday hanging out because, one of us had to work at the store
Yep.
because it's, family-owned small business. So
Yep.
I mean, and then you look at somebody like your mom. She has phenomenal discipline. When you're
I think so
outside
too.
looking in,
Yeah.
but when you ask her, she's like, I hate it, but I have to do it. I zone
Yeah.
out, right? And so it becomes habitual.
I think a part of mom does enjoy the work though.
The process.
Right.
Yeah,
She
she
enjoys.
does.
And that's something I want to do for myself too. Because I noticed that both you and mom are just, I mean, obviously, again, outside looking in, right? I don't know the mental war that you and mom are going through, but it's definitely something that I want to have for myself, you know?
Well, I mean, I think with her growing up, and so I don't know, most people, they're familiar with shrimp boats, but at,
Mm-hmm.
the ages of, I think, 12, 13, 14, 15, in the summers, well, most teenage girls were going to dance and learning about themselves. Mom had to work on a shrimp boat with her dad,
Yeah.
and it's hard labor work,
Yeah.
you
Hell yeah.
know?
Texas heat.
Yeah, and there was no
Mm-hmm.
bathroom on this little shrimp
No
boat, what they
bathroom
call a
or
bay boat.
AC.
No AC.
Yeah.
And, she would have to get up at 3:30, 4 in the morning to drive with her dad, from Texas City to Galveston Boulevard. You got to wait for the ferry. So it's an
Mm-hmm.
hour or something away. She would get there, and then culturally, you got to take care of her dad. So, she would cook breakfast or whatnot, what her
Mm-hmm.
dad wanted to eat, but they had to prepare for the day of work. And just imagine as a young woman, you're going through those womanly issues learning, but you still worked, and I mean, one of the funny things she would tell me that she had to pee by the side of the boat because the bathroom, the stalls where the dock was too disgusting.
Yeah.
And, you learned that. And so it instilled a lot of her, the wants and needs to have a better life.
Right.
Right? I
Right.
mean, she was working since she was 8.
Yeah.
You think about it, she would go shuck oysters with her
Mm-hmm.
mom, and they paid you by the pound or something like that, or a bucket. I don't know how it is. And then she would also de-meat crabs,
Yeah.
right? And I mean, she learned from an early age that you had to work. So for her, discipline, work became something that she didn't think of as discipline.
Right. It's
It was
just a
more
necessity.
a necessity.
It's like eating.
Yeah, and so
Right.
it was instilled in her.
Right.
You know, again, my life was not like that. I had to learn discipline another way.
Mm-hmm.
Just being outside by myself all those years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, funny story. When I was young, I kind of tended to myself and my friends.
Mm-hmm.
And here recently, my oldest brother, who, probably he's about 67, 68 now.
Like he, right?
Yeah. And we got into a conversation because my other older brothers, has cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were chit chatting, and, he's telling me, well, you need to do this and do that. And I'm, he's in inside family fighting type of deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I just told him, I said, look, you view things in that way because you were brought up inside a family atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're telling me is, hey, you need to go visit him and stuff like that. That's not something that, I kind of put up there as far as a discipline.
Right.
But for him, he goes visit him every day.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a different perspective, right?
It is very different.
Yeah. So, on the outside looking in, you would say, well, you know what? He's your brother. You should be there every day. But for me, I look at it as like, he doesn't want to see me every day.
Yeah.
Because when I go, he's sleeping because
Mm-hmm.
he's at home with hospice.
Mm-hmm.
So I view it as a discipline to go see him. I drive.
I agree, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my breaking point is like when I come home from work and I go see him, it's a tough another half an hour drive for me.
Yeah.
So
And, on top of that, it's not the best reminder of what's going on right now.
yeah, so it's
very
a weird,
grim.
it's very grim. It's a weird
Very
deal.
grim. Right.
So I mean, I know it's kind of like off in a tangent about
Mhm.
family matters,
Mhm.
but just to explain that everybody's view and relationship with discipline is different.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you just have to prioritize what you want. And I think sometimes when you break that discipline is when somebody's opinion comes into play,
Mm.
For the good or the bad,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
And I will tell you that, most people view me going to work 2 hours like, why don't you just get a job closer to home? Be an easier drive.
Right.
But you know, the reason why I do it is the relationships I have at where I work and the people I've grown with,
Right.
and
I mean, you spent the last
12,
decade.
13 years, yeah, decade
Yeah.
up there. So
13 years, basically.
it becomes habitual,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm used to the everyday occurrence of stuff that goes on in my daily work life,
Mm-hmm.
and I know what to expect and how to expect it, and I work through it. But you know, the drive sucks. It is what it
It
is.
does suck, right?
You know, so,
And I think, as much as I love to be an optimistic person, I think trying to admit when shit sucks is a good way to cope with stuff sometimes.
yeah,
Because
shit does suck.
it's impossible to be happy and optimistic all the time. You know. And
There, are, well, when you are, people think you're weird.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's okay to try have a positive outlook on life. You know, and I try to do that for myself, and I think I do. But just to know that you're human, sometimes you just gotta admit that the shit sucks.
It does. Sometimes
You know?
it's cool to say, you know what, today just eat shit.
Yeah,
right?
today's just, yeah. Exactly.
I mean, and maybe we're cursing a lot today, but you
It's
know,
okay.
daily life happens. I've had a
Exactly.
tough, you know, couple of months.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Speaking of having a couple months, Dad, this topic right here, fighting burnout. You know, when you've run out of fuel, and I mean, it's a bad day after a bad day after a bad week, after a bad 2 weeks, after a bad past
Yeah.
couple of months.
yeah, consistently.
Right. How do you? And I know in the last episode we spoke about hope and continuing to fight, but I think burnout is different because you have the fire and you have the motivation when you start.
Your
But-
willpower is zapped.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what do you do to? I mean, because you're still gonna go to work later this week,
Kind of have to.
right?
Yeah.
So how do you go about that burnout, Dad? Because I mean, I love you, Dad, and you're a superhero to me, but you're still a human,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so
I
there
think-
has to be some way that you get around these walls of burnout and stuff.
Man, burnout sucks, and it
Yeah.
happens
It is
more
very
time. It's
prevalent.
real. It's
It's
real.
real?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's real. It's
Right.
real. You get tired. You want to throw your hands up and say, "Screw it, I'm done."
Yeah.
It happens in marriage. It happens. I mean, especially relationships where people don't say that they're burnt out by the
Right.
same, you know, whatever the reasons.
Exactly.
You know, but it happens. It happens all the time in relationships. It happens definitely in work life. It
Mhm.
happens in every aspect. You know, the thing they say about, you know, if you find what you love to do is not a job anymore, there's a point of it I think is true. You know,
I agree with that. Right.
but I think that to sustain, because you're gonna get burnout, be it a lot or a little.
It's it's,
Right.
what does they say? Inevitable.
Yes, it's
Yeah, yeah.
inevitable. It'll happen. But I think that you find certain things that you're passionate about doing outside of that burnout helps.
Mm-hmm.
Talking, communicating helps.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, you still got to wake up and, you know, you still got to look in the mirror because it's only you that needs to, that can fight it. Right?
Right. And when you're looking at yourself in the mirror and you just feel like you got nothing left.
That's where habits come in, and it helps.
Oh, okay.
You think about it. You have nothing left. You're
Right.
burnt out. You're zapped. You're whatever.
Energy, willpower.
All of it's
and
gone.
You feel like the negative emotion and thoughts are just.
And it's fine because
Right.
it happens. It's
Right.
called life. And I think a lot of the stuff out there, and you know, keep a positive mind. I agree with it, right?
Oh, I
but
absolutely do too,
also
Dad, right.
you're also freaking human, and you're gonna be tired, and you don't want to listen to shit.
That's what I'm saying.
You
Dad.
know, and so I think that's when habits become strong.
Yeah. Okay.
Meaning that there days I don't want to go to work. Yes.
Of course.
Are there days I'm so agitated about going to work? Sure.
Yeah.
But my habits of going to work helps me. It
Okay.
becomes automatic. Getting in the car, starting the
You
engine,
feel like it
putting
becomes
your pants on.
autopilot kind of
Yeah,
thing, right.
and sometimes you lean on that autopilot
Mhm.
to help you through the day.
Mm.
You know, and that's what I think helps me a lot, because I mean, there's multiple examples of where I burnt out, and there's times where I just got up, threw my hands up, and quit, and walked out of a job. That has happened.
Has it really?
Yeah, it's happened to me. I mean, because you being young, you don't know, but yeah, it's happened. It's happened a few times where I just got up and I left,
Was this when I was a kid?
Yeah, I didn't think it through when I quit, type of deal.
What happened? What was the first time that happened, Dad? And would
Um,
you say it was more burnout or more so like, because burnout I feel like is an internal struggle.
it is, but man, also it's parts of life happening all the same. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's an added layer of more shit you got to deal
On
with.
top of the internal, there's
And
external
so,
factors.
your burnout becomes your goal in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
where you're like, hey, this job is the reason why, or I can't deal with this portion of the burnout, so I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck it, I'm out.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
so it happens. It
Yeah.
happens to everybody, Um, there's times when I would drink all the time, right?
Right.
And I would soak over a nice glass of whiskey,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
I remember that.
And the nice glass became whatever, 2, 3. And you go to sleep, and then, the next day you try to fight through it. And sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes you just got to give up and be like, you know what? They're either going to fire me or I'm going to quit. This stuff can't go on.
Mm-hmm.
And that has happened to me, right? Me and Mom being married at a young age, got burnt out.
Right.
We grew apart. But I think that, something triggered it for me. And
there's a lot of things that.
Yeah, and so you
lead
can
into that
attribute
kind
to
of thing
that, but
happening.
are you? I don't think anybody in this world, again, opinion based, is strong enough to deny that shit's gonna happen.
Yes.
You can't be
I
all.
don't even think that's an opinion, Dad. That's just a subjective
But
fact.
there's people out there that'll say, "Man, I got through it by this," and that's great. But we're talking, in a normal
99% of
sense,
people.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you know, having a relationship with work, having a relationship with your better half, having a relationship with your kids. I mean, I will tell you that I get burnt out by having kids.
Yeah, I imagine.
And so it's like a single mom. Think about it.
Yeah.
There's mom that gives up kids. There's dad that give kids up. There's whatever in the world,
Right,
and it's
right.
they hit that point to now. How do you fight that?
Exactly,
Right?
and that's something that I've been thinking about a lot. Not that I feel that way personally, but it's definitely something that I have felt before, and I just, as I grow into a more adult, I guess, with responsibilities and independence,
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure those things out because, like, this new job, right? I've been working here for like 3 weeks now, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't even know, but my manager the other day, we all got our checks, and we were just staying there talking to him after we closed, and he was like, "Oh, damn, I worked like 180 hours last week," and I'm like, "Dude, that is insane." I mean, what is it, 40?
Yeah, I don't think he worked 100 something
Or maybe
hours.
he said 2 weeks.
Yeah, probably 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks, because that's what's on the page.
Let's just say 60 hours a week. That's 120 for 2 weeks of work.
Yeah, something like 70 to 80 hours a week,
Yeah.
I guess. Something like that.
And I've done that.
Right.
I've done that.
And I can't imagine, personally, when he said that, I was like, that is a lot, man. That is a lot, and
But that's also his discipline.
right, he's been doing that for a while.
Yeah.
So I imagine his habits sort of.
Yeah, his habits kick in. His standards of what he needs to do kicks in, and
Right.
it helps you overcome that.
Right.
But to voice that type of opinion, because it happens. You're like, man, fuck, this is tiring.
Right.
But guess what? He's back at work again.
Yeah, he was there today.
Yeah.
And the day before that.
That's right. And so,
Yeah.
I don't think that's burnout more than that's just recognizing that you work a lot of hours, and it's just kind of like, God.
Right. And I
You know,
I'm not saying
the
that he was burnt out, but personally, I felt
if you had to work like
if
that,
I
you'd
had
be
to work
like, man,
that, I would be burnt out. Yeah.
you're like, dang,
that's a
dog.
lot of hours, Dad.
That's a lot of work.
That's a lot of work. Yeah.
Adult life, I guess.
Yeah.
It is a lot of work. It is a lot of
It
work.
is.
And we can get into more working smart and utilizing your time better and stuff like that. But, the thing about burnt out is you can work an hour and be burnt out.
Yeah.
It's,
I do with schoolwork.
yeah,
I
it rattles your
it
brain,
definitely does.
and so, but it's something like if you're committed to it, you'll get by it, get through it. And for somebody that, I think burnout happens is a lot of it is you don't feel wanted.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Or appreciate. I'm sorry, not want to appreciate it.
What do you mean by that, Dad?
Well, like even at work, right?
Okay.
And I'm assuming your manager feels appreciated. That's why he's still there. That's why I'm still there, right? But I think if you start working and there's none of that support, I think people don't think about it in that sense. I'll give you, for example, about marriage and being burnt out on a marriage. And, another side note, I divorced my wife and we're back together again, remarried after 5 years of divorce. And so during that time, it was a good break for us. Weirdly, she was burnt out, but she didn't understand it, and I was burnt out by it. We got married at such a young age, had kids and family at such a young age.
Everything happened so fast.
Everything happened so fast, you didn't have to think. And finally, when we had time on our side to think about it,
and everything slowed down,
you start analyzing all
you
this
and Mom
stuff.
didn't even know each other.
No, I mean, we dated, but it wasn't really like,
Yeah.
It's basically dating without dating. We dated and then we knew we were going to get married.
Yeah.
Right. And so it became something that I couldn't fight anymore. And, my burnout caused me to, blame her for my whatever. And,
the
rift that happened.
Right.
But, the time apart helped me.
Right.
To understand that, the reasons why I had that was because, I didn't feel appreciated. And so that's why I say that. There wasn't that support from her side to say, hey, but then I didn't communicate that this is how it happened. Right. So I think a lot of times, even in work, you don't communicate to your managers, or you don't communicate to your, if you're a manager, you don't communicate to your people, or because I think that once you decide to work somewhere or have a relationship, you have an understanding of shit's going to happen without your control.
Right.
Now, are there people that just like something triggers and they're done? I don't think that's burnout. I think that's just an attitude thing. But I think that if you're in something for a long time and you feel the weight of it, that's, that causes you to walk away, then I think that's burnout. Okay. That's kind of like, you have no more fuel.
That's how I feel.
Because how do you most humans get fueled with what? I think with other people, with other support.
Right.
Right?
There's not a lot of internal fire.
I think people need people.
I agree with that.
Right? Absolutely. And I think that with me then, even at my job, I didn't really communicate it. I was just kind of holding it within, and then finally it just kind of erupted and I was done. The same thing with, the divorce. I was just holding it all in, and then when it happened, something triggered it, and I was done.
Say like the straw that broke the camel's back kind of thing.
I think so. I think that's because you're just waiting for that sign. I think a lot of the time the burnout burns faster when the sign hits. When you get that feud.
It's all right. I'm done with this shit.
Think about it. Yeah. Once you get that feud or the opening to just say, hey, I'm done, you take it. Some people do, some people don't. For me, I did, right? In that instance. And I think that, but I think what helps me a lot is my relationship with people and my coworkers. It's not going to be a happy day every day.
Of course.
Right.
But you're going to try.
You're going to try it.
Right.
And I think work is the same thing as being in a relationship, really. You're just waiting for that sign. And sometimes you don't get burnt out because the sign never comes and you're just stuck and you're feeling like, oh man. And then it gets better.
Yeah.
It gets better, but it's just
look at you and Mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's it gets better. It doesn't always stay like that. But when you're in the midst of the storm, it's hard to see. So I think that's where the burnout happens, when you're trying to fight it. Sometimes you got to tell yourself that it's just a storm.
It's gonna be over.
It's gonna be over. Shit's gonna happen. You have another hour. You have another day.
Right.
To work through it. And so it's a little bit weird. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, that's how that's what helps me. But I don't know about you. Have you had burnout?
Yeah, I did. Living with Megan 2 years ago.
That's right.
Yeah, I got
You're
burnt
like, I'm
out.
done. I'm out.
Yeah, and I've moved. I moved out.
That's right. I forgot
Yeah.
that.
I set something up with my one of my best friends from my high school, and we were able to agree upon a deal. And me and him were
That
living
was the
together for a
trigger.
year. Yeah, yeah. There wasn't really a trigger. It was, I guess, like just an accumulation of a bunch of stuff.
It's
But
all the shit that piled up.
yes, yes. I can't really remember the straw that broke the camel's back there, but
I'm sure it was something little. It's
it's
always something
something
little.
very little that I can't even
Yeah.
remember anymore, right? But yeah, I got burnt out from that. Moved to Austin, did my thing there for about a year. Got burnt out from that too. Man, living on your own is very tough, Dad. And I didn't even do it fully. I was living technically I was living on my own, you know, but there was such a crutch.
We try to stay within the subject, but sometimes it gets loose.
What? Oh, today's subject? Yeah.
That's example of no discipline.
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely got off
Uh,
subject there, Pops.
but no, it's good. It's good because this is about just two people talking. We
Right.
just happen to be father and son, and
Right.
you're 21 and I'm 50, so
Right.
it's a good perspective.
Right. But it's sometimes it's crazy. I'd be thinking like, man, I'm struggling to come up with the little rent that I have to pay, you know. And then I think about how when you were 21,
Oh shit, that's
and
a
what?
non-comparison, bro.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
Two kids and
Right. Not even one kid, one adult.
yeah, it was crazy.
I feel like I still feel 16 sometimes, Dad.
Well,
It's
I think that we all have that perspective,
Mhm.
but burnout does happen when the support is not there.
Mhm.
So, um, y-
What are you doing in here, Mom? You want to say hi to everybody?
Hey.
All right. My
But-
mom is here.
yeah, but we
I'm a guest speaker.
Well, we're going to have you on the show next week, Mom.
On fashion.
Yeah.
we can.
We'll
I mean,
talk
we're
about
just
passions.
we're talking about passion and fashion.
Yeah.
But to get back to what you're talking about, it happens.
Right.
But I think what helped me, again, we're no expert. We're talking about what helps us and what helps me.
Mhm.
Helped me was just learning how to communicate better and actually voicing some of that negative thought that runs through a person's mind, which is kind of what we're talking about now. Going to the next pinpoint of it is coping with negative thoughts.
Yeah. That's
How do you do that?
you know, I think much like a lot of the other 20-year-olds in the world, we go to the phone. You know, we go to my mom is gesturing praise the Lord. I don't pray when I have negative thoughts.
Well, you
But
need to.
yeah. But you know, I try to find a positive outlet for it. So maybe I'll play like a video game for a few minutes or
It's called a distraction, bro.
a distraction. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, but on the days that I'm doing really good, actually, you know what? No matter how positive the outlet is, I feel like everything is considered a distraction, huh, Dad?
Yeah,
Because
I
if you
think
have a
so.
negative thought and you're like, "Ugh, I need to go to the gym,"
Yeah,
it's technically a productive thing, but
That's
you're
right.
still coping with the negative thought by distracting yourself.
yeah. And
So-
when that distraction overcomes negative thought, you move on.
Right.
Negative thoughts happen every day.
Every day.
You know,
Yeah. And they're constant.
it's constant. It
Yeah.
affects. I would tell you, even for me, it affects my confidence level big time.
Right.
And that's another thing about fighting burnout. Your confidence level goes way down.
It does. Yeah. Because you feel like you lost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You feel like you let them win.
Yes.
Whoever it is.
Whatever that
Whatever
reason
it
is.
is
Yeah.
that you let it win. Yeah.
So I mean, daily happens. Like I will tell you, learning about depression because my daughter has it,
Right. That is something else I wanted to talk
and
about
she
too,
lives in a negative world
constantly. Yeah.
constantly.
Times 10. for
Yes.
us, Right.
And it affects us.
Right.
because we don't know how to cope with it, because the thing about depression is you don't really see it,
Mm-hmm.
and you try to understand it, but sometimes
You really can't.
your
Yeah.
habits and the stuff that you think a normal person should do, you try to impress that on them, and then
Mhm.
it becomes like, I remember my daughter, she told me one day, I was mad because her room was a mess, and my understanding is when you're depressed, it what's the word I'm looking for? It realizes into the real world. I don't know the word. It impresses on the real world,
Okay. It
or
bleeds into.
it bleeds into your world.
Right.
So when she's depressed, her room's dirty.
Right.
She doesn't clean. She doesn't even get up.
Mm.
And so for dad, it's kind of like for a father, I'm like, man, why don't you clean your room? You're like 17 years old, 18 years old, whatever,
Yeah.
And so it becomes that, but that's something that I'm still learning to cope with, to help her.
Me too, Dad.
And I
Yeah.
get agitated with her.
It's hard.
It's hard because I
very
don't know
difficult.
what it's like. I
And
don't
you
know what
don't-
it's like to
yeah.
live in a world of negative thoughts all the time.
And you don't want to make it about yourself either. But,
Yeah, you don't, because it becomes selfish. You feel like,
right.
oh
You
my
feel
God.
like, well, I'm not the one that has it. Why
Yeah,
the hell am I so tripped up
that's
about it?
right.
But fuck, it's hard living with someone that has depression.
That's right.
It's very difficult. Yes.
It is extremely difficult because
Yeah.
it you have to be engaged in it all the time.
Yes.
And sometimes when burnout happens,
You move out.
you move
That's what
out,
I did. Yeah.
or you just you start yelling.
Yeah.
You're like, what the hell,
Yeah.
And then you have to take a step back and think about what that person's going through, which is very hard because
Yes.
human beings are selfish.
Yes. Absolutely.
We want our time, we want our perfect lifestyle.
Right,
We
right.
want to live in the social media world
Mm-hmm.
where everything is perfect. My life's perfect, my family's perfect, my perfect job.
Mm-hmm.
I'm awesome. But the thing is, you gotta live in it, and to be truthful, it's a tough thing, because I would tell you, like, one day I was yelling at her, going back to the story, and she just looked at me and said, "Dad, do you understand that every day I pretend to be happy?"
Mm-hmm.
Which I didn't understand until she
Right.
said it. She said, when you see me smiling, I'm forcing myself to smile.
Yeah.
And so for somebody that doesn't have that disease, I can't imagine that, much less
Mhm.
think about it, and so it becomes a weird deal. And I try to go back to it whenever I get agitated with your sister about certain things.
Right.
And I have to kind of remind myself, even I remind myself, I still get mad at her or whatever.
I mean, of course, back to being human.
Yeah. And so,
It's-
I mean, the thing is, you're human. You're not going to be perfect.
Right.
You try to strive for it, but, we fall very short.
Yes.
Very short.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, this is a little off topic because
We can go off topic. It doesn't
ran out
really
of things
matter.
to talk about. Maybe for like the third episode, I can do like a little.
We're on the third episode, dude.
Yeah, I know.
Oh.
I know, Dad. But just talk to you about like your past and your history a little bit, and some of the things that you like. Okay, when you were a child, you never really had like a dream job, did you, Dad? Like, oh, I'm gonna be an
No.
astronaut one day, or I'm gonna be a firefighter. Or,
I mean, to be quite
gonna be,
honest, I just wanted to live.
yeah.
I didn't think I would live past 20,
And
much
that's
less have a
crazy
family.
reality. That's a crazy reality to, like, when you were 5, you didn't even ever be like, I want to touch the moon.
No, there was no aspirations.
Never.
No. And I think back, I didn't have aspirations to. I think the way I grew up, my aspirations were that my parents would love me and my siblings would love me.
Right.
Make sense?
Of course. And I think, for you the listeners, the 2 listeners,
The 2 listeners.
Huey and Uncle Mike, my dad dealt a lot with rejection. And as a child, that's not normal. And it's very evil to put a child through that. Because none of us asked to be here, and I think it's so cruel to think of having a child and bringing it into a world that it never asked to exist in the first place. and then spewing all this hate and rejection into it.
Well, I think that, being young and knowing or feeling unwanted,
That's a terrible thing to go through.
it
Dad.
is, but,
Extremely. I mean, that's the number one traumatic thing you could have happen to you.
sure. I mean, just to give it to some backstory, I wasn't born here. We're refugees.
Right.
And my parents grew up in the old world,
Mhm.
meaning, being Vietnamese, they grew up in Vietnam, and there's centuries of family hierarchy.
Right.
The parents made the decision who
Right.
to marry, when to marry, how to eat. As a young woman, back in then, you didn't have a choice who you wanted to be with. Your choice was who your parents thought you should be with.
Right.
And I say that even in America, when they brought that over, even your mom, she, her dad,
Almost had an
your
arranged
grandfather,
marriage.
yeah,
Mhm.
had set up with an arranged marriage, but she found me type of deal, right? But I would tell you that we all have our struggles.
Mhm.
Mine, I would say, is a little bit more extreme than others.
Definitely, Dad.
Compared to
like-
you, it's a lot more extreme, right?
100%. But I'm
Um,
also your son,
Yeah.
which
So
is so crazy that you went through all these things as a child, and then you were able to have a kid of your own and raise it to not be so fucked up the way that you were fucked up.
I would tell you that's one of the goals, was to not give you guys the
Right.
life that I had, to
I
give
think
you all
did
the
a
love,
Really, really good job, Dad.
to give you all the love and all the understanding as what I felt like I didn't have. Now,
Right.
I say that, and I don't think my parents were bad people. I just think that they were raised in that
They
manner.
didn't know any better.
I mean, like there's stories of people say, well, my dad never said this, or up until the day my dad died and my mom died, they never told me they loved me, or I told them that I loved them. I
Yeah.
never spoke it. I tell you, again, just sliding into another side of it. What I'm doing now, I would always ask my brother, even ask your mom. I wonder if my dad or my mom was ever proud of me, what I became. Now, I never communicated that with them
Right.
growing up, because I was never at home,
Mhm.
right?
I mean, that goes back to the rejection, though, Dad.
I think so.
Right.
Again, it goes back to, that, and, your childhood has a lot to do with the way your thought process is
100%.
and how your attitude of the world is.
100%.
You know, i- to ask me, I mean, nobody's ever asked me, hey, did you forgive your parents for this or for that? I don't think that they did anything maliciously. They only did what they knew
Right.
how to do. The
For
problem was
you, it
that I
the
was more,
intent.
yeah, for me,
Yeah.
I think that their way of doing it and my way of doing it,
Mhm.
I was way extreme
Mhm.
in that I was hard-headed enough to say, you know what, I'm not going to do this. Backstory is like I left home at 9.
Yeah.
You know,
There's stories of little kids like packing their shit up and leaving.
That was me.
Kevin Hart says, "Me and He-Man are out."
yeah,
Yeah, but you actually left.
yeah, I did. Yeah, I left.
Yeah.
I left, and
What, Dad? When you were 9, I never knew the story of when you left and didn't come back for a few months. You never told me that story.
it was a culmination of a lot.
Was it like you left and you for a week or two and then you'd come back?
No, I left for like 6-7 months.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I stayed at my cousins. I stayed in abandoned homes, slept in cars, stuff like that.
Your first night out by yourself, where'd you go?
I just went to my cousins. I went to my cousins and stayed there until, they got tired of me.
So you walked there?
Yeah, I
How
walked
far
in.
was the walk?
Probably a mile. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they ever told my parents, but again, they never came looking for me.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I'd wake up and there was a knock on the door, hey, he needs to go home.
Yeah.
My understanding was they knew where I was.
So what happened when you came? Oh, okay, wait, no. The first night that you got, asked to leave your cousin's house then. Truly on your own then. At 9.
Man, that's 40-something years ago. I remember being really scared.
Of course, Dad, you're 9. You just got...
I remember being really scared. I remember, again, I was not wanted where I was. And the understanding was, of course, my aunt and uncle didn't really understand why a 9-year-old was just spending all his time there.
Mm-hmm.
I was also skipping school
Yeah.
with my friends. And, I didn't stay there all the time. I would stay in abandoned homes with my friends or, uh, sleeping in cars and stuff like that. And so you kind of just did what you did to survive. Um, Maybe one day I'll dive deeper into those moments, but they're pretty dark.
Yeah.
I would tell you that, I remember having a toothache and not knowing what the fuck to do with myself and basically having to pull out the little bit of tooth on my left side out.
On your own?
Yeah, just, you just did what you did. I mean, I just drank and, my friends weren't there to hug me or whatnot. You just
Yeah.
kind of, the shit was so bad, I just did it, So, I mean, and the tooth was decayed. I will tell you that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it was
No
decayed.
one's telling you to brush your teeth. You're 9.
Yeah, man. Now that you're asking me all these questions, I kind of have to relive it.
Is that okay, Dad?
I don't know. I to be honest with you, I don't know. I'm not saying what you're asking is not okay. I'm just saying that I don't know because nobody's really asked me.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I would just tell the story and be done with it.
Right.
And it's always like a surface story.
Yeah, because
I've never dealt, and again, I've never gone to a therapist and sat down and relived my life and,
Right.
and the traumatic things that happened when I was a young kid. Even as a traumatic teenager, it's a weird deal to go through your life that young thinking that nobody wants you.
that's an awful feeling to feel, Dad. And no, especially a child.
Especially a child.
Should
I
not
can't
be-
imagine not, like my grandson, I can't imagine not loving him like
Right,
that. Or he
exactly.
doesn't feel that love.
And that's what I'm saying. I was talking to Matthew about that today. I was asking him, what is it like to have 2 kids? And he's like, and it's hard, but you have to remember that I brought them into this world. They didn't ask to be here. They
Very wise.
They don't owe me anything. My kids don't owe me a single thing. If anything, I owe them the world because I brought them here. So he's like, sometimes you lose patience, but as a father, it's still on me. I have to love them.
And he's 28, by
Yes,
the way.
yes.
Just to give some aspect to the story.
28. Yeah, I had his first kid when he was 21.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no,
24,
he was
25.
like 24,
yeah.
25. Yeah, 23 or 24.
So to give us some backstory, Matthew is your stereotypical Asian kid.
Yes, nerdy, played games.
Yes.
Never really left the house too much.
I'm going to go ahead and say this. Got a little bit of booty.
Yeah.
Had a kid.
Yeah.
But he's turned into a phenomenal young man.
Yeah, absolutely. And what he said really resonated with me. And I was thinking about you, Dad. And I was thinking about Abel. He never asked to be brought into this world. You didn't either. None of us did. And,
But how do you live it?
yeah, I don't know.
That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Those are always these questions
Yeah.
about,
I didn't ask to be here.
No. Man, to sit here and you ask me these questions, it's got me reminiscing of how it was for somebody like me as a child.
Right.
And I didn't have any aspirations to be an astronaut or whatever. Really, what drove me was that I just wanted to be accepted and wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it goes back to not feeling any love from your immediate family type of
Right.
deal. To get again, like
That's
I
an
don't
evil thing, Dad.
I don't talk to any of my siblings except for 2.
Right.
I communicate.
But you don't have a
I
relationship
don't have
with
the only relationship I have is with my younger brother.
Yeah.
Like he's my best friend. Can I say best friend? I think we went through this.
Well,
He's true. He's my brother, but I do talk to him as a friend, and he gives
Right.
me advice. And my other brother, who I got along with, that's the one that has full blown stage 4 cancer and that's dying. And it's to grasp that is a weird deal.
It is weird, Dad.
Like I would tell you, like I was telling Mom, my older brother, he's the only one that actually believed in me, and not in anything else. He never said, "Hey, you're going to be awesome" or anything like that. But so to give it some backstory, years ago when I would come home, I would help my parents cut grass and help them with the family business.
Right.
I guess I was 14. I don't know how old I was. And so they just got used to me not being at home, and I would just pop in and out.
Mm.
You know, we would go cut grass, and we lived in Houston on the South 45 area, and we would drive to the north side to pick up the supplies in the van and stuff like that. But on the road trip there, he would always buy me a beer. He would drink a beer. My dad would drink 2 beers. And my dad would always be mad at me every time. Like, there was just, I felt like every time I saw him, he was aggravated with me until I got older. And I realized that aggravation was, dealt in love, but he didn't know how to express it.
Why was he so mad, Dad?
I think that the way he was brought up, your grandfather, he had a really tough life. Basically, when he was really, really young, he had to be the man of the house, 8 or 9 or 10 years
I don't know
old.
if this is a weird. Is this true? I think I overheard the cousins talking about it, but did all of Ong's siblings get murdered?
No,
Or
no.
they all got killed or something like that?
No. Your grandmother,
All of Grandma's siblings
not
got
all
killed?
of them, but her cousins and stuff. Then this was during 1945.
They tried to steal some
The
guy's
genocide.
chickens, right?
No, that's your grandfather's story. So what happened in that story was when he was young, his cousin decided to go steal goats from another village from
It
a
was
rich guy.
goats. Okay.
Yeah, or goats, or I
I
believe
think-
it was goats or
okay.
something like that. And he wanted to go, and his cousin said, "Look, you're too young. You stay home." I think my dad was 13, 14 or something like that. Just
Okay.
stay, take care of your mom. Now my grandmother had 3 kids, and my dad's the oldest, and my middle uncle died at an early age, and this is how poor they were. So this is a story they told me. My mom actually told me. So, they were so poor that when he died, they couldn't afford a plot.
Of land to bury him?
Yeah, or clothes. That's how poor they were. My
Wait,
grandmother,
what?
my grandmother borrowed clothes from one of the other cousins or her whatever to bury my uncle.
Like a nice.
Like just probably a T-shirt or something. Not even T-shirt then, right? I mean, you're talking probably the early 50s, late 40s after the
Holy
war.
Shit.
And they were staying up in North Vietnam in a village, and they're dirt poor, and they had nothing. And so before they buried, before they put my uncle in a coffin, and they were, to put him, to basically dug a hole type of deal.
Mhm.
Her cousin, my grandmother's cousin, took the clothes back.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and my grandmother had a dream that he came back and said, "I'm cold."
Oh my god.
Yeah, weird. But those are the tragedies of the old country,
Right.
And so I don't blame my dad. I did when I was young,
Right. I mean,
but
of
as
course
when
you're
I
a
had
child.
when
No
I
one-
had
no one
kids, when I had you guys, and I
Right.
got older, my dad became the best grandfather, y'all.
In
Right.
something
In every
happened.
aspect of the word, which I don't know if it's jealousy. I'm kind of getting a little bit emotional because just thinking about how much he loved you guys.
Right.
In the tinge of, I didn't have that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But your children did. And that
You
and
guys did.
We
I
are a
made
part
sure
of you.
I super spoil you, and your mom, she'll tell you that
You did.
I spoil the crap
But
out
we're
of
a
y'all.
part of you though, Dad.
I know,
So
but
does a part of you feel like because we were so loved and accepted by Ong, do you feel like maybe he would have done the same for you had he known better?
it's a tough call, bro. Because I have 6 other siblings, so there's 7 of us.
Yeah,
I
but-
think that now, I guess my perspective, he did the best he could.
See, in that I
Did I want more? Yes.
of course,
Right?
That's what I'm saying.
But then
But
again,
what I'm asking you is, you and Mom both love to say, "Oh, we had a fucked up childhood, but our parents didn't know any better because that was the old country." So does a part of you feel like, had Ong known any better, things would have been different for you?
Probably.
I think so
Most
too,
likely.
Dad. Yeah.
Most likely. If I
I think any normal, regular parent that knows
Sure.
better
I mean, I will
would
tell you, like, just sitting here talking to you, asking these questions, there's a vent up of emotions that, as the older I get, the more I want to express it,
right. I
because,
think you do. You do a good job of that, Dad.
I mean,
With me and Abel.
yeah,
and,
it's a learning process. It's a learning process to communicate.
right.
Um, it, man, just, God bless, it was a crazy ass life.
Hell
The
yeah.
the gift with your mom was your mom coming into my life.
Mm.
And, she bore 3 kids. And out of that, my grandson type of deal, right?
Mhm.
And I have a family of my own, and, I try not to relive those moments. I will tell you, like, I keep a lot of that locked
Locked up.
away somewhere.
Right.
The story of like, you guys always know the reason why I don't cry,
Mm-hmm.
Um, since 8 years old, I probably cried once.
Yeah.
And I was telling Mom even at my nephew's funeral, I had to force myself to let out a little bit of emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, a father figure to him,
Mm-hmm.
right? I felt that,
That was a grim time.
Yeah, it was. I mean,
Yeah.
he's your oldest brother. He's, Brandon's favorite
brother,
cousin,
yeah.
and, they live together and all that stuff. But kind of losing my train of
Hold on,
thought.
Dad. What, if you're losing it, let me ask you this then. Finish that story about the goats. Almost cut out.
Anyways, yeah, sidetrack again.
Yeah.
So, his cousin told him basically stay home, take care of your mom. You're the only, you're the man of the house.
First cousin?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I mean,
Who'd you hear the story from?
your grandmother, my mom.
Oh, Dad told you this story?
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
My dad never talked to me like that.
Okay.
And when my mom she would always tell me stories, but
What
it
did
wasn't.
Dad tell you? How old were you?
And I don't know.
Oh, you were young?
When she told me the story, yeah.
Oh.
This is one of those times I would randomly pop in the house,
Mm.
we just had maybe she wanted to prove a point that, I think she told me the story to tell me that, hey, you're not the only one going through tough times being a young man. Maybe, right? I don't know. But when she told me, anyway, so my dad didn't go, and his cousin went, and I think my mom said there was like 13, 14 other people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they were caught, and they
Hung, right?
They all hung, yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, they hung them all. I think she said the youngest one was 16.
That is
Stealing
so
goats.
fucking crazy.
Crazy, huh?
That is very crazy.
My mom would randomly tell me crazy stories like that. Now, well, I'll give you a kind of background. I was 14, 15. I came home to visit.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not even the story where they sold their house and didn't even tell me. I came home to visit, and the new owner opened the house. Is basically, who the hell are you? You remember that? Anyways,
fucked up too.
I remember I came home, and all my family was there eating. And I walked in, and they just got up. They refused to sit at the same table to eat with me.
Did anybody stay there to eat with you?
My mom just told me to sit down and eat. So I ate a little bit, and then I left. But being young, even then, and now, there's 2 sides to the story, right? They were embarrassed about the person I was, because everywhere they go, it's like, yeah, that's your brother, and he's horrible, he's a gangster, and all this stuff. But there was no acceptance. And so I relived that. Kind of, for me, oddly, it gave me more strength. Now, did it hurt? Yeah, because I still talk about it today.
You do. And I can tell when you do talk about it, that pain is still in your eyes.
Oh, yeah. And the other thing for people out there listening is the pain never goes away. It's what you manage.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily or not luckily, I happen to be strong enough to put it in a corner deep inside somewhere. So imagine being that young, walking in, and your whole family. I remember my brother saying, I can't sit here and eat in Vietnamese, basically, like, translation meaning that, you have no teaching. You're the worst. It's one of the worst things you could say to a Vietnamese kid.
Mm-hmm.
they basically just got up and left. They just refused to eat with me because I was, you know, just that person, right? They didn't want to be attached to me. They didn't want anything to do with me. They just, I was just despised would be the word. And I felt that. I felt that in every cell of my body. I felt that. And it's a horrible, horrible feeling
It's
for
a
a
horrible
young,
feeling, Dad.
for a teenager.
Right.
And, I remember my mom crying. I think she was crying. And I was just sitting there like, I didn't say anything. I didn't say, hey, well, fine. I'll eat this without you. And I just told my mom, hey, look, I'm going to go. And she said, no, just wait. Just eat. You're hungry. I said, no. I'll go. I don't want to embarrass you anymore. Now, to say that, my mom also tried to kill me a couple of times.
Yeah, that was fucking crazy.
So it wasn't like oh, I love you, why leave my son?
Ba was not like a motherly figure.
No, she was not.
Even in her
It was,
grandmotherhood.
I think, even at that moment, she knew that was a bad decision on my family side to do that. And, I think back today that in her own way, she fought to try to keep her child at home in that manner. But those words were never expressed.
Right, because
she didn't say, hey, I love you, stay and eat. She
had
just
no
said,
idea.
just eat, you're probably hungry. And I mean, I don't remember if I was hungry or not hungry. I just randomly, because that's what I would do. I randomly come home.
Right.
And, they never said you need to leave or anything. They never asked me to come home and stay. They just allowed me to be there. So in their own words, in their own way, I guess that's the way they made me feel welcomed. But it wasn't like every day I come home, it's like, oh my God, it's a celebration. You're home, No. It was more or less nobody really talked to me.
Yeah.
And even then, my younger brother hated me because he blamed me for the whole family's dysfunction.
Young really did?
Mm-hmm.
When did you and him start getting along?
Quick side note to the story. I came home to visit. My mom said my brother has ran away and I needed to bring him home. And so I had to go look for him. And I went to the pool halls, and of course they knew I was looking for him, and his friends hid him from me. And, his friend actually told me this story. He said when I walked in the pool and I saw his friend was like, God dang, he's here.
Yeah.
And my brother was underneath one of the pool tables hiding.
How old was Young at this time? Like 16?
Something like that, yeah. 15, 16. And I just kind of, in my old nice way, where the fuck is my brother? You see him, tell him I'm looking, I want him home. And, and of course I, hey, you're lying to me. I'm coming back. And of course he was lying. But the bigger reason why was my mom missed him. He's the youngest child. And he, out of all that, he's very sensitive in that sense that he's always told my parents he loved them, and he would hug him even if they didn't want to hug. And, I get a lot of my strength from him through those times. But long story short, he was running around with another gang type of deal, right? And so I had to go get him because basically, in that lifestyle, you either with me or you're my enemy.
Right.
There was no in between.
And so if he was on the other one, then
yeah,
you basically had to go get him to save him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, I mean, in that world, you lived and died by the way your word, or, who you are.
Right.
And, all you have is your reputation. Your reputation in that world is your money. The bigger the reputation, the kind of the richer you are in that sense, right? And so this was the heydays of the late 80s, kind of early 90s, late 80s type of deal. A lot of stuff was going on in that world. But yeah, and that's how come we get along so well now. Because then I just kind of took care of him, and he was with me all the time. And we developed, we became, we always had that.
Do you feel like you and Young ever had a rift Of course not.
Yes, we did.
Like after you guys were like about 20 years old. I'm not talking about pre.
Y-
Because
y-
of course in
You're
childhood
talking
you
about
guys,
after
in
20?
your adult life essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't like, there was his ex-wife who I didn't like too much. I
Mhm.
mean, the greatest thing come out of it was my nephew, right?
Yeah.
I didn't like that aspect of it, but we didn't have. I remember one time. Man, I don't know how deep to get into these stories because it gets deep. There's a lot of it.
Mhm.
You know, it. We were. I would tell you we didn't live like. There's a lot of people, of course there's worse people than I am, right? And there's tougher, and I
Right.
get that. But during those times, it wasn't, you lived by your word and what you did. And I
Right.
think that, I don't recall a rift with me and him.
Ever? You and Young always got along for the most part.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, I don't think that we have a all out. I mean, were there times we fought? Yes.
Of course.
But more times than not, there was never a rift. There was never like I didn't talk to him for 5 years type of deal.
Yeah.
Some more background. Like the people that know me know, I don't really talk to my siblings.
Mm.
I have no It's not I don't even talk. I have no communication.
No.
We see each other, we act like we're strangers, and we move on about our business.
It's pretty,
It's pretty extreme,
very extreme. Yeah.
but that, I guess, what makes it work.
Mm-hmm.
There's an understanding, right? I mean, to say that I hold a grudge would be kind of weird. I don't.
But
I mean, there's nothing that they did to me where I forgive.
Right.
Like if I have to like say, oh, I forgive you, even though you don't, whatever. I don't think that. I don't know how to explain it, but I accept it as life. I accept it as that's what happened. There's a bit of my fault in it. And there's there's more of them. So the easiest thing to do is not, communicate. But we also grew up in a world where, communication wasn't impressed upon us like it is now.
Yes.
Right? I'm sure if we sat
the old
down,
world.
I'm sure we sat down and talked about it, and they'll tell me about their perspective. I'll tell them about mine. And I'm sure they think they're right. And I think I'm right.
Right.
So without getting into more details, you kind of just let it go. But me and my brothers never had a rift. Oh, anyways, going back to my older brother who's, dying.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the reason why, like, he only told me this one time in his life.
Are you going back to the lawnmower story?
Yeah.
This is a crazy ass.
So they gave, so we, I come home to, previously help him or whatnot, and then they decided to give my older brother, which is, so the one that's having cancer right now is second to the oldest. And they decided to give the one under his younger brother, basically,
Your
here's
older
the
brother.
business. Yeah, he's my older brother.
Right.
And my brother who's having cancer right now looks at me and says, they should have just gave you the business. You would have done a lot better.
That's exactly what he said to you?
Yeah. And he never said anything after that. Never expounded on it.
But it seems like
But
it
I
stuck with you
always got along with him because of that.
forever. Right.
Those words.
Yeah.
When nobody,
He's a man of very few words too.
he doesn't really talk.
No.
But those words carried me
Right.
for a long time.
It was the first time.
Anybody in my family said anything positive to me.
Yeah.
That I would tell you, like, when I went home to help my dad out, he would yell at me every day. I mean, one time he almost killed me because he threw a damn pickaxe.
2x4 at you too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, luckily I dodged it. But this was like in a suburban neighborhood in the middle of
Yeah.
the day. He just got, You know,
I was always so mad.
he called me lazy every day. I was a piece of shit every day. I was worthless. I mean, that's basically what he told me daily. Whenever I see him, it wasn't like, and he would
Sorry.
just look at me and he would just want to kill me. And the aspect of him looking at his grandkids and loving his grandkids is
It's
also
so
strange.
different.
But also his relationship with my siblings are pretty good.
Yeah.
But they were also willing to go past that and be involved in his life where I wasn't. Does that make sense? So uh, I don't know. Maybe all that has given me the discipline that to want a better life, I guess.
To circle back.
To circle back.
Circle back to. Oh my
Don't
gosh.
want to stray too far from the subject.
We're recording for an hour, Pop.
Oh, wow.
Do you want to close it out? What?
Why? You're not
It's
involved
the
in
third
this.
episode of the 333.
Yeah.
We'll do a show like that one day, Mo.
How to park cars correctly.
Yeah.
Asians don't know how to park cars.
No, we don't.
So I know we got off subject. I think there was a lot in it.
Yeah.
This
today
episode was a little bit-
long episode.
Little bit emotional
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah. But that was the point of this, Dad.
That is the point of
That's
it,
the point-
and I think
again.
this thing helps me too.
Right.
Try to get better
The
in
point
my
of,
life.
the point of the show, not only is it for me and you, but hopefully,
More than our two fans.
yeah, other people that have a dad or people that have a son, you guys hear this and think, well, if a dad can open up to their son like this and the son can do the same, maybe I can do that with my own.
Maybe if you're a
kid or
dad
dad,
and
you
your
know.
kid's going through it.
Yeah, exactly.
Where as a father, you lived a good life, and then your kid is going through his own struggles, and trying to find that thing that they're trying to find, and it's hard. It's hard being in that because everywhere you turn,
There's always some shit.
there's always some shit.
Yeah.
There's always something that brings you and keeps you down. But I think that the best thing that I can tell people is that it's just a storm, man. It's very
gonna
hard to
pass.
see. It's very hard to see
Mhm.
through it when it's raining and thundering and it's dark.
Mm.
But like everything else, all storms leave. It- re- If there's huge destruction or little destruction, with the storm, you still, it depends on you if you want to pick up and
Right.
rebuild. Fortunately, I did,
Mhm.
right? To ask me where did I get that, or how did I learn to do that, or what happened for me to go on the straight and narrow, I will tell you that it wasn't a one-day thing.
Mhm.
I mean, even and Mom kind of knows the story now, but even when I really stopped acting crazy in that lifestyle
When you were like 35, right?
when you were born.
Oh, when I was born? At
After
30?
you were born, about a year after that, 2 years after that, I kind of just stopped
Yeah.
doing the craziness.
You were out of the game.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Because even at that point, I was still
Doing shit.
up in shit
Yeah.
deep. Yeah, a lot of insanity still. It was it didn't end because I had kids.
Right.
It ended because it was just the time.
It was? You felt like it was over?
I mean,
Because you had your third kid. You did.
yeah, I didn't want to. I didn't want to go to jail.
Yeah.
I didn't want to end up dead.
Yeah.
Um, I'll tell the story one day when we get deep into it of exactly what happened and who told me, hey, give it up, let us do what we have to do, type of deal. It's one of those. It's one of those actually, not weird, but yeah, it's just one of those stories.
That'll be a special episode.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, again, I mean, my life's I will on these podcasts to be an open book.
You definitely do a good job, Dad. Absolutely.
And again, I mean, it's what Mason said earlier 2 episodes ago. I just want to help.
Yes.
I mean, if you're listening in and you feel that struggle, you're not alone.
right.
You
Because
know,
me and you are just regular people, Dad.
yeah, this
Yeah.
is just, you know,
We just happen to be talking in front of microphones.
that's it.
That's the only difference.
That's it. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, struggles are real.
Yes.
Life happens.
Yes.
The struggle's real.
Yes.
Shit, storm happens.
Shit's gonna happen.
But you know what? If people like me can get through it, and not to say that I'm ultra successful or not successful, I will tell you that I feel like in my way I've made a lot of strides in building my family.
Absolutely, Dad. Yeah.
And so you can look at it however you want to look at it. I look at it as like I'm still learning, but the success is, you guys are not in prison.
Yeah, we're not all like.
And so I guess my goals are easy.
Yeah. If those
You
are the
know?
expectations you set,
Yeah.
that's good.
Try to set your goals low so you reach it.
Yes. Exactly.
No, I mean, it's hard work.
Being a dad?
Living.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, you're fighting burnout all the time.
Yeah.
Just to keep basic
yeah.
existence, just to keep going.
I mean,
Absolutely, Dad.
I mean, just, on the outside looking in, they see me and my wife or your mom walk around. They're like, oh my God, I want to be like y'all. Been together all these years. You raised a beautiful family and I get those compliments all the time. But the reality is hard.
It is hard.
It's the image people
outside
decide.
looking in.
It's the social media picture they decide to see where it's a smiling family walking together.
Right.
But what most other people don't see is the infighting, the daily struggles, and you can't expect to be like them. I think a lot of people falter because
Just do your own thing.
yeah,
That's definitely something I'm learning.
you're good enough to do your own thing.
Yes.
Just
Just do your own thing. Because it's always going to be impossible. You never know what the other people have going on. It's always outside looking in perspective, like you said, Dad. So,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, we're walking social media post.
Yeah.
Because when the random people see, and it's a snippet of your life. And so whatever they see is either good or bad, and I will tell you sometimes when, random strangers will walk up to us. I will tell you one time me and Mom went to church, and I don't think about when I'm holding her at church or we're just kind of listening and at Mass. But there was a time, we walked out of Mass, went to the store, and this lady, the same lady that happened to be sitting behind us at church, walks up to us and basically tells Mom, man, I want to have y'all's marriage or whatever that is. You guys seem so, you guys seem so happy together. And what she didn't know that the day before we were fighting like cats and dogs.
Yeah, and y'all had gotten divorced 15
Yeah.
years before that.
Yeah, or whatever, or 5, whatever, 10 years, whatever that it is.
Yeah.
And so I would say that, keep doing you.
Keep doing you, yeah.
And in good times is perspective. For some people, it's just getting to wake up in the mornings. For some people, it's just, some food. Some people, it's a job they've been wanting. Whatever that it is,
It's all perspective, yeah.
It's all perspective. You got to find that happiness,
Yeah. All right, Dad.
We're pretty good, huh?
I think that's a good.
All right.
note to
So
end on.
we kind of got off track, but I think
Crazy.
I think the episode's really good.
That was a good episode, yeah. That was an hour long. Holy cow.
Yeah. So maybe we'll stop saying that as we get better doing this.
Yeah. We're still figuring everything out.
That's
Uncle
right.
Mike, Huey, thanks for listening to the
Thanks
end.
to the 2 fans.
The
Hopefully
2
we get
fans.
3.
Yeah.
With that, I will say, Gapsao.
Gapsao. Bye, everybody.
Bye.